Hello, my name is Tafar, and if you know me, you might also know that I have some insider knowledge on what kind of content was cut from NASB 2. I'm talking about animations, moves, other mechanics, and all sorts of stuff. So without further delay, here's 5 things that were cut from NASB 2. Number 1, Ember's rhythm mechanic. Yep, Ember had a mechanic that basically put a rhythm minigame into every single match, and there's actually remnants of this still existing within her kit. Basically, when performing some of Ember's attacks, mainly those that used her guitar, pressing the attack button during hit pause would build up her meter. This was also the only way for her to build meter, while in the release version you can build it up by just doing damage. Not only that, but moves also had different properties based on whether or not you successfully timed your input. For example, her forward air would not spike unless the input was successful, even if spaced properly. Her down tilt launched at a different angle, her F tilt was stronger, and there might have still even been a few others. The lone remnant of this mechanic is actually in her charged up air, which, as you may know, has a different finisher if you press the button again. Ultimately, this whole mechanic was removed for a couple of reasons. For one, it was kind of inconsistent across her kit, since not all moves had functionality with this feature in mind, not all moves also used her guitar, and it probably would have just been annoying to have to work with this feature on quick attacks like her down tilt, jabs, and of course the multi-hits like nair and up tilt. For 2, it was pretty much always just better to hit the timing correctly rather than not. So there wasn't much that this mechanic actually was adding, at least not in the way that it was designed. I think there definitely was potential here with this mechanic, but it just didn't happen to work out, and it's possible that there was a way for this to be implemented in an interesting way. Number 2, Patrick's jab. If you press and hold jab with Patrick, he'll start spinning like a top. And while I'm sure that's very interesting to some of you, what if you could actually move with the jab? Yep. Once upon a time, Patrick could slide left and right with his jab while spinning until he let go of the button. You might wonder what was wrong with this mechanic, and to be honest, you just kinda had to be there. Some problems with this setup were that he could just kind of follow you a little too reliably, and a lot of the time you just got kind of wobbled even if you were SDIing away. If you chose to stay on the ground, you wouldn't be able to shield as he'd just continue spinning towards you. And if you were in the air, you were probably just gonna fall right back into the jab tornado because there was too much hit stun. So your only choice pretty much was to just get forced to the ledge or pray to God that you can get Patrick to go the wrong way somehow. The properties of this move were really what made this thing such a monstrosity. The hitbox covers all sides of Patrick and it even reaches into the air a little bit. You could then kind of think of this move as a mobile anti-air that was also not bad out of shield since it was so fast, as well as a demonic shield pressure tool because dropping shield or rolling at the wrong time resulted in you getting hit, and even if you rolled at the right time, he could still build up enough momentum to chase your ass down. So thankfully, we don't have to deal with this in the final version. Number 3, Dacus. Dacus, or Dash Attack Cancelled Up Smash, is a movement tech that was discovered in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Characters were able to quickly cancel their dash attacks with an up smash, which would also result in a slide. Certain characters were able to slide longer distances than others, and this mechanic also almost made its way into NASB. However, the mechanic was introduced to the beta pretty late and could not be balanced so close to the game's launch, which is why it was ultimately removed. I think of all the features mentioned in this video, this one is probably one of the least consequential, and it probably would have been pretty easy to balance, but once again, with the limited development time that this game had, not all planned or spontaneously implemented features could be tuned properly for the game's launch, so it was safest to probably just leave it out. Number 4, Korra's Neutral Special. Korra's Neutral Special, as you may know, has 3 different forms. A straight firing projectile if used when in the air, a frozen puddle if used on the ground, and this swooshy thing that also spikes enemies if it's used with slime. If you ever thought this move or the way it works was a little strange, it's because it was actually quickly reworked right before launch. Something to keep in mind about the development process of games, especially when you have separate teams working on programming, design, and art, is that it's hard to get new animations later on in a project's development, and it's best to keep moving forward when you have a short deadline. So you end up with cases like Korra's Neutral Special, which is what we would probably call an overloaded move. At one point, Korra was able to access all 3 variations of her Neutral Special as we're familiar with now, regardless of if she was in the air or using slime. The version of the move you got was just dependent on which direction you were holding after pressing the special button, which in this case basically meant that Korra had 3 special moves in the place of 1 that all did very different things. Rather than scrapping 3 whole animations and having to redesign this move from the ground up, it was just a bit easier to find ways to shuffle around the pieces that were already in place. Now, before we get to the 5th and final item on this list, I just want to take a moment to thank you for watching and to kindly request that you like this video and subscribe. Now the big number 5, Slimestrongs. You might be thinking, oh, but Slime Strongs are already in the game. Well, can you tell me what they actually do? If you asked me that question right before I made this video, honest to God, I don't think I'd even have a correct answer for you. However, if you asked me back in June of last year, this would be my answer. Super Armor. Yep, the first rendition of Slime Strongs had it so that any strong attack that you use this with would be protected by Super Armor, meaning you had to avoid, dodge, or grab the coming hitbox. Although this sounds pretty cool on paper, it was a pretty hard mechanic to properly balance since there's a wide variety of usefulness to this. Imagine Patrick flying at you with a charged up air that you just absolutely had to get hit by, or really any of Patrick's strong attacks for that matter. There's probably a universe where this mechanic made it through and could have been balanced better, but time is the ultimate killer, because when this idea got scrapped, another one came to mind that also almost made it through to the final version. What if certain strong attacks just had unique mechanics? This could have been an interesting way to balance characters that didn't have great base strong attacks or abusable ones with super armor, and one notable example of this mechanic was Nigel Thornberry, who had a slime grounded F-Strong that legit just sent him sliding across the stage. Once again, however, there just wasn't enough time to balance this kind of mechanic or ensure equal treatment across the cast. So with both of these ideas being canned, that's why we have Slime Strongs as they are now, basically just wastes of slime. Right now, they just do a little more damage, and while at one point they did increase knockback, that was removed because certain characters were given access to consistent early kill confirms that totally overly centralized their game plan, and pretty much made any other use of slime a complete waste instead. Which of these cut mechanics or features do you wish made it through? Or alternatively, which mechanics are you glad didn't make it through? What are some ways you think these mechanics could have been tweaked? Tell me your ideas in the comments. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, because I might do another one of these videos in the future, and you won't want to miss it.